I don't want to have to like search for guys. I want their performance to jump off the screen and say, hey, damn it, here I am. Put me on your ballot. I'm that guy. So that's what I'm looking for.
And you're not looking to turn the station.
No,
right now,
right.
you got 6 different options watching games, and you're staying on a game because you're watching this guy.
And you know what? And that's what you were. Like Doug Flutie was
So both of you
must-see
guys.
TV. You know what I mean?
Devontae Smith, touchdown, Alabama!
Intercepted by Charles Woodson. Collins off the Heisman.
They will not catch Lamar Jackson.
35-40, he's on his way. Desmond Howard is going all the way. That is a Heisman Trophy winner.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Hello Heisman from the Varsity Podcast Network, where we talk all things college football and, of course, the Heisman race. Jimmy, J-Ro, what's good, my man? How was your weekend?
It's all good. It was crazy. Went on a college visit with my son, watched a little bit of pro football. You saw some pro football, huh?
I did. You know, I'm in Miami, and the Fins are having a bad season, and they played against the Houston Texans and squeaked out a victory. So it was good to go to the Fins game and watch them win. As ugly as it was a W, so it was a pretty good weekend.
Crazy weekend in professional football, but another chaotic weekend, not only in college football, but certainly in the race for the Heisman. You know, Des, it feels like it's really late in the season to say this, but the race feels wide open. Last week we said, I think that Kenneth Walker was clearly the front runner, came off that big game against your Wolverines, but Michigan State loses. Walker still has a good game this weekend. Michigan State loses to Purdue. Walker, 146 yards rushing. Here's the question. Is he still in the top spot? Should he get penalized for the Spartans' defense giving up points on their last 5 possessions?
Yeah, Jimmy, you know, I tell you what, like if I had to turn in my ballot today, I would really struggle finding 3 names that I believe are deserving to be on that ballot. That's just how special I think, you know, being a candidate, a Heisman candidate and a Heisman finalist is. As far as Walker, I mean, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. He goes into that game as the Heisman favorite, the front runner, and he did something I had never seen him do all season. He put the ball on the ground.
Yep.
He put the ball on the ground, led to a Purdue score, and like you said, the defense couldn't stop Purdue's offense with David Bell, who we're going to talk about a little later too, because I think he's having a fantastic season. But you know, you want to use these games. I mean, obviously, it's big to get up for Michigan. It's an in-state rival. You know, when you put that winged helmet in front of a Michigan State player, it just gets the blood boiling. It is. But when you put that helmet with a P on it in front of a Michigan State player, it doesn't invoke the same reaction. So, going on the road, you want to see them do something special, something significant, especially Kenneth Walker III as the front runner. And he had a good game. You know, nothing to me that said, okay, this guy was the best player on the field in that contest. But I don't think he really hurt his chances because the guys behind him, J-Ro, they didn't make up any ground on Kenny.
Yeah. So let's talk somebody that you just mentioned, David Bell, the wide receiver from Purdue.
O'Connell back, looking, throws to the far side, got a man wide open, David Bell. Bell makes a man miss, 35-30, 25-20, still on his feet down the sideline, inside the 15 to the 12. Another All-American play by David Bell.
You know, a few weeks ago when Purdue beat Iowa and he had that monster game, Iowa at that point was ranked number 2 in the country, you know, we wondered, you know, did this guy insert himself into the conversation? And the feeling was that it was only really 1 week.
Right.
Well, now they beat the number 3 team. He has another huge week between teams that were ranked number 2 and number 3 in the country.
Yeah.
Bell has a total of 22 catches, almost 500 yards receiving, and
Crazy.
2 touchdowns. So what do you make of where he is right now?
I tell you, J-Ro, the one thing I look at when I'm looking at Heisman candidates, and I've said this before, is not only what did you do, but who did you do it against?
Yeah, right.
And it's great to see a guy like David Bell, you know, rise to the occasion when the stage is the biggest and the lights are the brightest. And like you said, Iowa, I mean, they just made easy work of the Hawkeyes defense. 11 catches, 240 yards and the touchdown. But then now going up against a Michigan State team number 3 in the country. Again, 11 catches again. And you know what, J-Ro, you know that, okay, Mel Tucker and his defensive staff, they know going into this game, we have to control David Bell. We can't let this guy beat us. So it's not like this guy didn't get all the attention, despite the fact that coming into this contest, Michigan State knew they had to control, if not stop, David Bell, and they could not do it. It just shows you how great his talents are. And now moving forward, another big game this Saturday against Ohio State Buckeyes, who I don't know where they're going to be ranked by the time those two teams play, but definitely another top 5 team in the nation, and a defense that, when it comes to passing defense, Jimmy, the Buckeyes, they're not the best at defending the pass, so he may have another big game. So keep an eye out for David Bell against the Buckeyes.
All right, let's talk Ohio State for a second. Last week, we talked a little bit about maybe TreVeyon Henderson.
Stroud in a pistol, gets the snap, hands Henderson, running at a left angle to his own 35, to the 40. 45, Henderson to the 50, and he's taken down at Nebraska's 46-yard line. TreVeyon Henderson stopped by safety Markel Dismuke. First down, and there's the run we've been looking for Henderson for all day.
Not getting the amount of attention that he perhaps deserves. Some of it goes to C.J. Stroud. They've got a couple of great wideouts on that team. One of them had a really, really big day this past week. Where do you think TreVeyon Henderson sits in this this conversation now? I mean, there's never been a true freshman to win the Heisman.
Right. And I tell you what, I've been impressed. I've been really impressed with TreVeyon Henderson probably since the Buckeyes dropped the game to Oregon, because it seemed like they started to lean on him more. And he has over 900 yards. He would easily beat 1,000 yards in the season had Ryan Day and that staff realized what they had in him earlier and started to feed him the ball. I believe that in the first 2 games, what we saw was C.J. Stroud, this quarterback from Ohio State, that everyone was trying to prop up to be a legitimate Heisman candidate before he deserved it. And we saw him struggled against Minnesota, struggled against Oregon. And I think Ryan Day, they saw the same thing. They said, listen, okay, maybe we're putting too much on this guy. We know, quote unquote, got the best receiving core in all of college football. But if your trigger man isn't on point, you need to start to rely on the running attack a little more, and then let CJ get comfortable. And so that's what Ryan Day and his staff did. And now, I think that when I watch Ohio State, Jimmy, I don't look at CJ Stroud and say, wow, this kid's the best player on the field. I just, that's not the film. But when I see TreVeyon Henderson and what he brings to the offense, and even in the Nebraska game, this game is like, it's a tight game down to the wire. It's a 1-score game. And what did they end up doing? They had to lean very heavily on TreVeyon Henderson in the running game. So it tells you, how important this young man is. So he's averaging like over 7 yards a carry. He's another guy to keep an eye on. I know people want to talk about, hey, listen, if you're the Buckeyes quarterback, you're going to give a lot of attention, especially nationally. But the running back is, in my opinion, is what makes this offense go.
Well, it is the Big Ten, and you know what they used to say about Woody? 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? All right, so talking about another player who's been all over the map. So here's a guy, Kenny Pickett, quarterback at Pittsburgh, who started the year off the radar, then kind of burst onto the radar, then had a not his best game a couple weeks ago. So Kenny Pickett still has impressive numbers over the course of the season. 29 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, completing 68% of his passes. Is he still in the conversation? They've got North Carolina, Virginia, and Syracuse left.
Yeah, I think he's still in the conversation. He's having a fantastic season. And some guys are dropping out of the conversation, like a Sam Hartman, Wake's quarterback who just lost in a shootout, just didn't have enough bullets in the magazine against Sam Howell and UNC. Yep. And so I think that helps Kenny. What hurts him is he doesn't have any big games left on the schedule. You say UVA, that's potentially the biggest game, and he has incredible.
That's going to be a shootout.
Another shootout, exactly. But yeah, I think that he's a guy who you still keep an eye on. He's having a fabulous season. His numbers, they speak for themselves. And that UVA game is going to be pivotal for him. And then I guess probably whoever they play in the ACC championship game too.
All right. Listen, let's end this discussion by talking about one guy that we just keep coming back to. He's really difficult to take your eyes off of.
Gotta be Caleb.
It's a small sample size, but Caleb Williams, big game this week, playing against Baylor. And that defense is, even though they struggled this past week, surprising loss for Baylor against TCU. But that, Dave Aranda and his defense, that's what they're going to be focused. They'll plan for him.
100%. Absolutely. I tell you what, I had an opportunity to speak to Dave Aranda several times when he was the defensive coordinator at LSU. And, we just call him the professor. He's very cerebral. He puts a lot into his game plans. And then the opportunity to go out there and now knowing that it's going to be a huge challenge, not just for him and his staff, but for his players to defend Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. Are you kidding me? And the guy who, like you said, people are saying, even though it's a small sample size, this guy is in the Heisman race. So I think they're going to embrace the challenge and devise a game plan. Don't forget, the game is in Waco, so it's a home game. They're coming off of a pretty demoralizing loss from the fact that TCU didn't have Gary Patterson on the sideline, and they still went out there and gave Baylor the business. So I think there's a lot at stake for Baylor. They want to prove that what we saw a week ago isn't who they are. And any team that can derail a Heisman candidate's Heisman campaign love to do that. So I think that the Baylor Bears would love to play spoiler when it comes to Caleb Williams' Heisman campaign. So this is going to be an interesting one. I can't wait. I'm very excited to see Oklahoma versus Baylor and see what Caleb Williams is able to do.
Caleb Williams, certainly one of the most exciting players in college football. And you know what?
Yeah.
About 3+ decades ago, there was another guy, different type of player, but brought the same type of excitement. He won the 1984 Heisman Trophy. That's Doug Flutie, and he joins us next on Hello Heisman.
He drops straight back, has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks, uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there.
Oh, he got it!
Did he get it?
He got it!
Touchdown! 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 Touchdown, Boston College! He did it! He did it! Flutie did it!
And as we said, from one exciting quarterback to another one, the 1984 Heisman Trophy winner from Boston College, the pride of Natick High School. I think he's wearing the Natick High School. Yeah, there you go. Of course, none other than Doug Flutie. Doug, Des, and Jimmy, good to be with you today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's it going, Des?
Hey, man, it's going fantastic. How you doing, Fred brother?
Hey, there you go. Yeah, we're doing good. Look, hey, that's coming up soon. That's not too far away now.
Exactly.
Yeah, hopefully we get back to normal in New York and get a real Heisman celebration going again, and that weekend's always a blast, buddy.
Yeah, it is the best. It's the best. And I see you with your BC hat on. One of my producers, Drew Gallagher, will be happy to see that if he sees the podcast. But what's going on, man? Big win over Virginia Tech, huh?
I actually got to that game. I've gotten to 2 games. They beat Missouri. I got to Missouri. I got to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, the good luck charm.
The big difference was Phil Jurkovec, who's a transfer from Notre Dame. Played this week, and Phil said he only had like 50% grip on the ball, like strength. Wow. But he's such a gutty kid. He ran hard. He didn't look brilliant in the passing game, but the guys rally around him, and he played great. He played hard, but the one ball he threw a high angle corner route. He threw a high angle corner with the corner on the outside, safety in the middle field closing over the top, and Zay Flowers ran. It was like, no NFL quarterback could throw it any better. It was like 60 yards in the air, perfect stride. He's a tough kid, and that was a big win for BC.
I was watching some of that telecast, and one of the things I saw was that one of the offensive linemen on BC, if I'm not mistaken, his dad was one of your offensive linemen, not to make you feel old or anything.
Yeah, no doubt. Stevie Trapillo was his son. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but he's playing now, and he looks exactly like his dad. It's like his dad, by the way, he was I think it was a first round, it might have been a second round draft, but he had a great NFL career as an offensive line, played in New Orleans. But his son walked in the room, and Oh my gosh, I thought it was his dad for a second. And his dad, my teammate, passed away at the age of 42 from a heart attack years ago. So it was kind of surreal to see that face. I was like, wow. But it's really cool because that's happening a lot now. Guys from my generation, other kids are playing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. Old as dirt. Man. Old as dirt. I just turned 59, Des.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did. I don't know how it happened.
You're doing something right.
Hey, it beats the alternative.
It sure does. It always beats the alternative. That's why I tell everybody. Yeah, Doug. Hey man, before we get into this, what your journey was like at Boston College, could you talk about your background? I'm just fascinated by what I'm seeing in your background. I see, you got the Sweetness jersey, Walter Payton. You got Drew, but how about the guitar? Just tell us about your background. What you got?
Yeah, first of all, the Sweetness jersey. My first touchdown pass in the NFL was to Walter Payton through a corner. Actually, nice. Very simple. Through a corner route up over the top. He's a running back running a downfield corner over the top, and great catch in the back of the end zone by Walter. He takes the ball, throws it into the stands. My first season. After the game, he asked for the ball back, and this is back in the 80s now. And the next day, the guy came back, gave us the ball. We signed another ball for him, and took a picture, and everything's cool. Now they want like $500,000 for
like that Mike Evans moment when Brady threw a 600 touchdown pass, right? Yeah.
So I got Tom Brady jersey and Drew Brees jersey, two guys I played with. And then Batman and Robin, I got a whole Batman theme going on in the garage, which is stupid. Okay. But musically wise, I've got an original drum head from Leonard Skinner signed by the original band up there on the wall. Wow. And I have actually a full Leonard Skinner drum kit that I got from the original drummer.
Okay. And you play the drums, right?
And the guitars. The guitars are
all those guitars.
Van Halen, signed guitars by Van Halen, Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, blues legends, B.B. King, Buddy Guy.
Nice.
Wow.
Chuck Berry. There's an Aerosmith guitar. If I said that,
I'm so envious right now. Well, Jimmy, look at that.
This is excellent because music is a big part of the pod here. Every time that we do one of these things, Des and I both are. Well, Des is really a vinyl guy. I just went to the attic and grabbed one out. So every time we do one of these things, we take an old piece of vinyl and put it behind us. Today, Des has got Stevie Wonder, and I've got an old Beatles disc back here. So
I can pull out some vinyl. I got two turntables. I got one in this room, and I got one in the garage in my little bat cave.
So you got vinyl too, huh?
Oh, heck Doug. Yeah.
Oh my God. Love it.
I have my wife's mother lived to be 97. Okay. She was born in like 1919. So she had a bunch of old vinyl too, but she had like the 78s, the thick.
Oh yeah.
Old records. Yeah. So I have some of those laying around somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, people today don't even realize that when they're talking about 33 1/3 or 45s or 78s, what it means is how many revolutions per minute, right? So
exactly, those
we're just showing our age, right?
I was just gonna say that.
Hey, listen, let's shift gears here a little bit about college football because that's what we're talking about and the Heisman. I want to go back to 1984, and actually let's go back even a little bit earlier than that. So I think one of the most fascinating things is, that's right, in the time machine, exactly. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth.
Excellent.
I think one of the most fascinating things, you had one single Division I offer. And I guess what I remember you once told me is that you had a bunch of interest from the Ivy Leagues. You ended up your first year returning punts at BC. But did you almost go anywhere else?
I was really an Ivy League 1AA kid. So I had offers from like UNH, UMass, Holy Cross. I got letters from Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. I was like, oh my God, I got a letter. So, they send those to every kid they can get on a mailer. I really felt like I needed to take a scholarship offer. I mean, Ivy League, I'd come out of there still at that time. You would come out with a ton of loans and everything else. So I was thinking probably UNH or Holy Cross. If I went Ivy League, it would have been Brown or Harvard. And real late in the recruiting season, the Boston College head coach resigns. Jack Bicknell from Maine, who recruited me and offered me up in Maine, he came down, got the job at Holy Cross, or I'm at Boston College, and was scrambling around. Now, the two quarterbacks he wanted, one went to Syracuse, one went to Holy Cross. So they offered me late. They like, we're just running, we just had a 40th reunion for Coach Bicknell, and all the guys were there. And he said, what did it was the high school all-star game that summer. The high school that made him leave me a quarterback. He was probably going to move me. And he left me a quarterback because in the high school all-star game, Mark Bavaro, Jamie Morris, all these Division I guys were on the North squad. I was the only scholarship kid on my squad.
Okay.
And kind of, did my thing running around the field and all that, and we blew them out. So it was fun.
That's pretty cool. So then you go to Boston College and, you establish yourself finally as a starter. Tell us about that 84 season. Who were some of the guys who were in contention for the Heisman going to that season? When did Doug Flutie become like a blip on the radar? And then obviously when did you know, okay, I got this thing?
The year before, I finished third in the Heisman behind Mike Rozier and Steve Young. So I'd finished third. Yeah, I'd finished third the year before. Going into the season, I was viewed as the front runner. And we came out the gate, our second game of the year, and beat Alabama at Alabama on national TV. This is back when not every game was on TV. Right. So right away, kind of got the name out, got it out there early, had a great win, and then followed up with a national TV game against North Carolina where I throw for 6 touchdowns. So now I'm off and running. Okay. The guys that year that end up at the Heisman, Bernie Kosar, Keith Byers was the biggest competition. Keith had an unbelievable career at Ohio State running back. Right. And his senior year was amazing. Okay. And then as it wound down, I think Bo Jackson might have sprained an ankle that year and missed a couple
that's the only way anybody's going to beat Bo.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking if I know that there was a year that Bo was banged up. I think it might have been and a guy Napoleon McCallum from Navy. Yeah. Just lights out year.
Right.
But Bo, I think Bo got a little nicked up. So thank you, Bo. So the funny thing was at the end of the year when I did win that, the Hail Mary pass, everybody think, he threw the Hail Mary, wins the Heisman because of one play. And I always loved it that Brent Musburger said that night that Doug had already was a shoo-in, but the Hail Mary made anyone that didn't vote for him look stupid. So I'll take that.
Well, I think it's kind of funny. You go from afterthought to Heisman winner, but all these years later, one of the things that I always think about is the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, the Heisman voting had actually ended the week before that game against Miami Thanksgiving weekend. So you'd already won the award.
Basically, they told me that 85% of the votes were in already. So I think there was still a window to get them in after that weekend, but it was a mail-in vote. So everybody always mailed them in early. That was the point that I think it was 85% of the vote had been already taken in. So that's stuff like it kills me that you got one play in your whole my buddies at NBC call me one pass.
Not me.
Tap does. Okay. And definitely Tirico. It's all joking. It's all joking and fun, but you have those moments, and the way I view it is, at least you had that moment that people are going to remember. You'd love them to remember all your numbers and what you did. But of course, they're not gonna.
No, I'll take it. That. Yeah. Did they hype that Miami game up with you against Bernie Kosar? Was there a bunch of Heisman hype behind that game? So tell us about that, and then you got to walk us through that Hail Mary, because for me, I'm like 13 or 14 years old, and you, Doug, for real, 100%, you were the poster child for never quit. Never, ever quit. You were that guy. So please just walk us through that, the hype behind the game, and then that final moment when you was like, Hail Mary, full of grace.
Well, first, going into that game, all the bowl bids come out early back then, right? Okay. So our school had so much confidence in us. They wanted to have a winner go to the Sugar Bowl. If we got to the Sugar Bowl, we would have played, I believe, Anyway, we would have been playing potentially for a national championship.
Okay.
Okay. So winner goes there, loser go to the Fiesta. Back then, the Fiesta wasn't New Year's Day. So our school had so much confidence in us, they took the Cotton Bowl and wanted to play New Year's Day. So Miami had all NFL talent guys. There's no doubt about that. And it was going to be, it was at a time when everybody loved to hate Miami because they were the big bad boys. Yeah.
Right.
And
exactly.
So the hype about it was really, the little guy that could, and the school coming out of nowhere against the big bad boys. And Bernie and both of us threw for well over 400 yards apiece. I threw for 470. I think he threw for 450 or 420 or something.
That's correct. Yeah, 440 something.
And it was just up and down. Des, I'm not a high percentage passer. It's like
right.
I was like, make some big plays, scramble around, make a big play, 55 to 60% passer, right?
Okay.
I was 11 for 11 coming out in that game. I'm like, I don't do this in practice. It just, guys were open. I'm throwing the ball. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. I'm like, it was fun. And it was a big deal when we got held to a field goal, and Bernie, I think, threw 2 picks in the game. Or a pick and a fumble or something.
No, he had 2 picks.
2 picks. And those were the stops. It was just, so the point being that they got the ball on their end of the field down by a score.
Okay. Right.
And they got a penalty and got backed up. And Bernie almost it was 3rd and 22. And we almost sacked him for a safety. He gets out, dumps it. They come out, make it 4th and 1, convert on 4th and 1. I'm like, there's still 3 minutes. Let them score. They're going to score. Let them go down the field. Screw this. Give me some time on the clock. And I actually, when there was about 50 seconds left, I walked over to the coach. I said, can we let them score? And they're like, we probably should, but we can't. But so when they scored with 28 seconds left, it was basically get the ball to midfield and turn it loose.
One of the things all these years later that I remember is that, this whole idea of, you joking that they call you one pass. What people may not remember is that season, you guys beat Penn State, Alabama, and Clemson. So you guys were, a marquee team playing as well as anybody in the country that year, weren't you?
We really were. And, it's funny because we were a class. Like I said, there was a coaching change. They scrambled around. Bunch of 1AA type of kids or Ivy League type of kids, but a lot of high character guys. And Gerard Phelan gets drafted. Kelvin Martin has a great NFL career with Dallas, wide receivers. We had a tight end get drafted. We had 4 out of the 5 offensive line. We had 5 offensive linemen out of the guys that were on the roster at that time end up playing in the NFL. We had 3 running backs, including one was a fullback, that played in the NFL. Billy Romanowski was our middle linebacker. Tony Thurman, our safety, led the nation in interceptions. It was like, at the end of the day, we didn't, we were always the little guy against, but I think the high character type guys, they get better. Like, we're going to be built on a 4th, 5th year program. We're not, the guys at an LSU, Alabama walk in the gate ready to play as freshmen. And, they're looking to get to the NFL by their junior year. In our situation, we have guys that really develop and get better in their 4th, 5th year.
Look, Doug, I can't have you just like run through this amazing Hail Mary pass as if, just chucked it up.
Yeah, right.
yeah, you come on. All right, listen, you have to describe the play. What was the play? Describe what was going through your mind as everything was unfolding. And then the aftermath, too. I mean, one of the iconic pictures is you just jumping up and down with both arms in the air. I mean, it was amazing.
It was a Heisman moment is what it was.
It was. And for a little guy, like for us little guys.
Us little guys. We got a 6 foot and under club, baby.
Exactly. So please, Doug, walk us through that, please, like you're Brent Musburger or something. Go ahead.
The play call is 55 flood tip for us. Flood tip is the play call.
There you go.
Okay. So Tom Coughlin was our offensive coordinator that put in our offense. So Tom Coughlin, I was just did a thing with Eli, and Eli said they still call it flood tip because of Coughlin calling it. And so anyway, that was a little side note. So that's the call. They're sending in some freshman as a wide receiver, supposedly Sean Dabrowski, that can really jump high. And I got Troy Stratford as my tailback in there. I want Troy involved. I trust him. So he's going to become one of the 3 receivers, and we're lining up. I wave the freshman off, and I leave Troy on the field, right? And the freshman's running out, turns around, starts back towards the sideline because I wave. They're waving him back out. He's stuck in the middle, and I like point it off the damn field.
That's what I'm talking about. Right? Give us the goods.
So then I realized Troy Stratford has a pulled hamstring. Troy never even got halfway down the field. Troy has a bad hamstring. He wanted out. So we line up, and they go press coverage on the inside 2 receivers. Kelvin Martin's the outside guy, so he's going to be the uncovered guy. They'll probably get down the field first. And there's an inadvertent whistle. And then they pick up the flag, and we reset. When we reset, the defensive back that lined up over Gerard decides, look, Calvin's faster. I'm going to walk out and jam him. So he made a decision to go out, which makes Gerard be the first guy down the field. And Gerard, if you ever saw the video, he's chugging like he's running a marathon. He's running about a 5.240 on his way down on the wet grass. During that inadvertent whistle, I walked over to the tight end on the backside who was supposed to be in protection. I said, hey, there's Pete Casparelli, who's the backup. I said, Pete, go long, get wide, and go down the rail. And he's like, all right. So that's a side note for later. Okay. So anyway, it's a drop back protection, but in my mind, I got to hang on the ball as long as I can. I pivot, get away, roll right, get away from a guy. And I wanted to roll right, get everybody to flow and maybe look backside. Okay. But when I got out there, a linebacker was running at me. It was time to go, and I throw it. Gerard had chugged down the field, and he got down to about the 10-yard line. And I guess that's about the time that I rolled. And the DBs stopped giving ground. They just stopped. And Gerard went behind them.
Wow.
And it's just because I was on the move, they probably figured I couldn't throw it that far or whatever. I turn it loose. Ball comes through. The backside corner comes over. The safety's in great position, and they jump for it. And the backside corner bumps into the safety. It goes through the 2 of them and like handcuffs Gerard because he lost sight of it. And it hit him in the gut, kind of slid down to his thigh, and he catches it against his thigh and falls down. Wow. He rolls over, and he sees he didn't know if he was in the end zone or not. So as he saw, he was on paint. Knew he was in the end zone, and he's like, his reaction is, "We're never going to get away with this in Miami. There's going to be a flag." That's what he said. That's the first thing that entered his mind. There was a pig pile, and Gerard, his arms got pinned to his side, and he had like 20 guys on top of him. He said he thought he was going to suffocate and die. So after the game, I don't know who for sure caught it. I find out on the way into the locker room. Dave Pereira, a guy bumped into, told me, but. Pete Casparelli, backside tight end, comes up and he goes, hey, we had a chance. I'm like, okay, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, everybody was open. But when you think about it, it was the backside corner that came over, bumped into the safety, so the ball went through. Yeah. Fast forward 35 years later. I do a piece on the anniversary of it, whatever. I see a different camera angle. I freeze frame it and take a snapshot of it. Because the only one that I've ever seen that shows the tight end on the backside by himself on the 10-yard line, he would have been a walk-in. Wow. And I just sent.
You missed the receiver.
I missed the open guy. I missed the open guy. I actually just sent that picture to him. We had this reunion thing a few days ago, and I just sent the picture to him this morning of him being open.
Yeah, what an
incredible story.
Yeah, it certainly went, like, when you think about it, happens in an instant, and this is the way these things go. Happens in an instant and becomes one of the most iconic plays in college sport, in sports history, really, if you think about it. And I was thinking about this.
It would have been boring, though, Jimmy. It would have been boring if we had Dez, because I would have thrown a wide receiver screen and just let him take it and make everybody miss it. It would have just been a boring play, and it would have been over.
Is the best thing that ever happened in your college football life, and, certainly one of the best things that's happened in your life, also one of the biggest burdens, because that's really the first thing that everybody wants to talk about?
It is from that standpoint. And I said it a little earlier, we all want to be remembered for all the great things we did, or, games, and at least there's something they got, right? There's this play that there's this image and they remember it. 99.9% of us get totally forgotten and they keep moving on. And the other moment I had was at the end of my career, the drop kick thing. So it was like a bookend. I had these two bookend moments that are kind of, the drop kick was the last play of my career.
Tell the story.
Please do.
You want the whole
Please,
drumstick?
of course. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
come on, bring it.
Okay, here we go. Storytelling time.
Yeah.
So I've always drop kicked messing around for fun since I was a kid. I did it in pregame. Mike Vanderjack up in Toronto was our kicker in Toronto before he went into Indianapolis. So we always did it. And then when Buffalo would play Toronto, or when Buffalo would play Indianapolis, we'd go out early and have little competitions and stuff. Chris Berman had seen this. And Chris Berman went to Belichick and told him one day at practice that, hey, Flutie can drop kick. It hasn't been done since 1941. And he had the guy's name Scooter something. I don't know. He had it all ready to be big sales pitch for Bill.
Ralph Warmadan, I think was the guy's name, actually. Anyway.
So I get called into Bill's office at the end of the after practice, whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm old. I'm getting cut. Bring your playbook. I'm gone, right? Bill's in his office with Chris Berman sitting behind him, just beaming with a big old smile on his face, right? And Bill looks at me and goes, hey, can you drop kick? I go, yeah, I can do it. It's not, no reason to do it. I can do it. He goes, is it legal? I think it's still legal. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That conversation goes on. So we practice it a couple of times. And then we were going to do it against the Jets on Monday night. I go in the game at quarterback. We get a couple of first downs. He wanted to do it as a field goal. It stalls out around the plus 35. It's too far. We can't do it. We forget about it for 2 weeks. I'm standing on the sideline against Miami, 43 years old, freezing my tail off, 20-something degrees, whatever it is. And my back stiff as a board. And I haven't played. I'm mad because Matt Castle started instead of me in the meaningless game. And I just want to get home, right? And we're down by 14. And Bill's standing next to me. He goes, hey, we score here. You kick it. He didn't get the sentence out of his mouth. And we were already in the end zone because we were on the 5-yard line. I go, are you serious? He goes, yeah, go get it. I rip the jacket off. I grab a ball, kind of punch one into the stands to warm. That was my warm up. And I jog out. I jog out. And all these guys are like a bunch of little kids at Christmas. These guys have won Super Bowls. They're already the New England Patriots, right? We're down by 8. I'm just kicking an extra point.
Right.
So we line up to do it and we shift back into the shotgun, all this. They call timeout. I'm thinking, great, served the purpose. They wasted a timeout. I don't have to do this. I start to go to the sideline. The whole bench is like waving at me. Get out there, right? Brewski, Brady, Belichick, all the B's, right? They're waving me out. And I'm like, okay, I get back to the huddle. I'm like, I guess we're really doing this. And Lonnie Paxton's the center. Lonnie weighs about 220. And Keith Traylor's over his nose at 315. And Keith's like, I'm going to blow you up. I'm going to knock your ass off. And hey, what are you doing in the game with Flutie in the game? And I said to Lonnie, I go, tell him what we're doing. Tell him to relax. Just tell him what we're doing. It's just, yeah. So Bam Childress is a wide receiver. All these conversations are going on the line. Like guys are trying to talk guys in not to rush in this thing. If they rush it hard, it might get blocked, right? Bam Childress, Bam's out there. He's a practice roster guy that just got activated, right? He's going against Sam Madison on the outside. And Sam's like, you're running a fade, aren't you? He says, no. Watch the slant. No, check this out. This is going to be cool. You got to see this, right? So this is the stuff that was going on. So I get in the gun. I'm pretending we're going for 2, and I'm slowly drifting back. Lonnie snaps it. I hit it. And I knew I caught it flush. I turn and give it a little fist pump. Lonnie snaps the ball. Traylor doesn't blow him up. I think Jason Taylor was the only guy that tried to rush it. Traylor doesn't blow him up. He steps through. Zach Thomas steps up at middle linebacker. He looks up, sees that thing go over his head. He goes, what is that? Lonnie Paxton looks me square in the eye. I said, that's a drop kick, mother. He says, it hasn't been done in 64 years. So I turn around, do a couple of fist pumps, right? I turn around, the entire offense, everybody's running at me like we just won the Super Bowl, right? We're down 7 with 3 minutes to go. Yeah. So I go to the bench to give Bill Belichick a hug, right? Just go, and Bill's not the most touchy-feely guy in the world. So I get the awkward hug, but he did smile, right? So that's a bonus. Bill smiled.
Big bonus.
So I meet up with my wife and my daughter after the game, and we're in the concourse or whatever. My daughter comes up to me. She says, you blew off Tom Brady on national TV. I'm like, what? Tom came out for a high five. I went right by him to Bill.
Oh, wow.
And it started, I don't know, Tom, I love Tom to death. I got his jersey over my shoulder, but he's got some awkward timing with the high five. I don't know. So anyway, the ball.
What a day.
The ball
went man.
A memorable day. And I'm sure that it probably exists somewhere on Google, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, that's out there.
YouTube, whatever. Right?
That's out
you
there.
can find that on YouTube, I'm
yeah,
sure.
that's fun. What's funny about it are the young kid. You know, I'll be at a ball game, maybe a baseball game, Red Sox or something, and this little kid will come over for an autograph. There's no way this kid knows who I am. You know, Dad said, "Go get the autograph. Go get the autograph." So then he'll go back. And about 5 minutes later comes running over for the picture or wants something because he just Googled it or saw, Dad just showed him, okay, the hell, something, you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny. Thank goodness for that. It keeps us alive, keeps us relevant. Not relevant. I wouldn't say relevant, just keeps it out there.
Yeah, no doubt. And tell you what, that's an amazing story. Incredible, bro. Thanks for sharing it with us. Now, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Doug's going to tell us some of the players he has his eyes on for this 2021 Heisman race. We'll be right back.
You know he's not short of opinions. Back with the 1984 Heisman Trophy winner from Boston College. Of course, that's Doug Flutie. And Doug, before you joined us, we were talking about Caleb Williams, one of the more exciting players in college football. In some people's mind, when he gets on the field and he runs around and he flings it, it makes people think of you, maybe a little bit bigger version of you, but...
everyone's a bigger version, right?
Well, not me, by the way. But anyway, who do you look at? I know you're still a big fan of the game. I know you watch a lot. Who you got your eyes on this year?
You know, I always do tend to gravitate to those guys that play the game a little bit the way I did. You know, the guys that are mobile and slinging around and all that. But, you know, the Heisman has become the MVP of a team that is in the mix for a national championship.
You know what? I was saying this, and it isn't necessarily right.
You know, it's supposed to be the best player in the country. But you know, that being said, it's hard to measure guys that aren't playing the best competition. It's hard to measure guys that aren't in that mix with the pressure on them. So my guys, I just jotted down a little list of the top four. And in my mind, there's Bryce Young at Bama. You know, it's like, is that you're anointing the quarterback at Alabama every year to be in the finals. You know, he's going to be in the mix. You really want to see him do something special down the wire to see if, you know, show that 2-minute drive or whatever it might wind up being that could win a national championship for him. Matt Corral over at Ole Miss is very special. And then CJ Stroud at Ohio State. The guy that impressed me this week, the guy that I looked at, and the guy that if I'm keeping an eye on, the guy is Kenneth Walker over at Michigan State. You know, I don't want to just anoint a quarterback. It's a passing game now. It's a game where, you know, the numbers are going to be so flashy at a quarterback position for 3 or 4 schools. It's going to be great. But his change of direction and his quickness and his agility, some of the runs he made, even if it was an 8 to 10 yard run, I really kind of got infatuated him this weekend. And I want to see how he plays out the rest of the year too. It just, you know, the problem for Michigan State is they're not in the mix for a national championship.
Well, I mean, you know, they got the one loss, so we'll see. I mean, you know, Mel Tucker thinks that everything is still ahead for them as far as their goals are concerned. You know, guys, my dream, and this would probably never ever happen, but my dream is for us one year to maybe not even give it out because no one's deserving of it.
Whoa!
I mean, that would be the best to me. Because see, I don't want to be in a situation where we're always trying to look for a guy and trying to find a guy. I don't want that to be the case. Like for me as a voter, especially as a winner, the award holds a lot of weight. And I want a guy to earn it, to deserve it. Not what we have to see. Oh, let me look at these stats. Okay, he got good numbers. Let me put him. I don't want that for the award. You know what I'm saying, Doug? Like
I hear you.
I would love for a year where we don't even give it out because no one was deserving of it. How you feel about that?
I think you've got to give the award, but I love the sentiment. I
Doug,
do agree.
I mean, like,
I love it because
I was talking to J. Rowe. I'm like, listen, and you may feel the same way. If you had to fill out your ballot today, are there 3 names that you really feel strongly about?
Not at all.
See what I'm saying?
You're searching for a guy. You're searching for, and then you try to justify it by looking up their
100%.
numbers. You go look at their numbers. Yeah, but he did that, he didn't throw a pick all year. He he had 100, he threw for 100 yards a game and 4 touchdowns, but he'd throw an interception all year. So,
I think part of the problem is that there are too many people who don't see enough of the players play. True. And as much as, look, you had great numbers. You were the first, I think, quarterback to throw for over 10,000 yards in a career. Right. But more than that, with you, I think it was about the eye test. And I think personally, for me, when I turn on the television on Saturday or I'm at a stadium, for me, it's about the eye test. You don't need somebody to tell you who's a special player. Right. And shouldn't that be what the award's about?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to see a guy that's dominating a game week in and week out 100%. Out there and takes control. Yeah, first thing I thought it was like a Bo Jackson or a Herschel Walker. When I go back to my years, they're carrying the ball 30, 35 times a game. Right. And it's obvious this is the most important guy on the field. It's obvious, whatever quarterback that's throwing for 500 and dominating a game and leading his team up and down the field week in and week out, most important guy on the field. The way Des, whether it was kick returns or big plays every week, it just stood out. And that's not happening.
And that's the same thing I've been talking about, man. We do this podcast and I'm talking to Jimmy. I'm like, listen, a guy's performance should just jump off the screen at you. Like, you should look at this guy and be like, yo, this cat right here, he's like the best player on the field. And when I see C.J. Stroud, the quarterback at Ohio State, great young talent, but I never get that feeling when I'm watching him on the field. But his running back, Travion Henderson, I get that feeling when I'm watching him run the ball, especially like late in games when they got to like put the game away and, it's like a 1-score game and they start to lean very heavily on the running game and Henderson comes through. So I'm always like, I don't want to have to like search for guys. I want their performance to jump off the screen and say, hey, damn it, here I am. Put me on your ballot. I'm that guy. So that's what I'm looking for.
And you're not looking to turn the station. Right now, you got 6 different options watching games. And you're staying on a game because you're watching this guy.
And you know what? And that's what you were. Like, Doug Flutie was must-see TV. You know what I mean?
The both of you guys. Listen, if you're talking about Ohio State and must-see TV, think about their next 3 weeks. So they got Purdue this week, and Purdue is, giving some trouble to these top teams. But then it's Michigan State and then Michigan. So if somebody on Ohio State does something special, it's going to be seen by a lot of people.
100%. And it depends on the team you're on, too. Like, we talked earlier, and I'm not sure if you saw this player, Doug, but his name is David Bell. He's a wide receiver from Purdue. He's not getting a lot of, national acclaim. But if you really, pay attention, Purdue's upsetting, these top 5 teams, right? They knocked off number 2 Iowa. Now they knocked off number 3 Michigan State. Well, this kid, he's a receiver. He had 11 catches in both games, 11 catches apiece. I'm like crazy, over 200 yards in both games and the touchdown. And now he has an opportunity to go up against a pretty porous pass defense with the Buckeyes to make another statement. So this is a guy who, when the stage is the biggest and the lights are the brightest, he's showing up. Now, I don't know how much attention he's getting from other people, but for me, a guy who watched the game and I'm into this. I'm like, okay, this is the type of guy who I want to see jump out the screen and play, in the biggest moments. So keep an eye on David Bell, man.
Plus he's a wide receiver, Des, and you lean towards that. But no,
I took us 25. What? How many 25?
I hear you. I know. I agree with you 100%. And those guys can. When I was in Buffalo, I had Eric Moulds as my X receiver on the weak side.
Yeah,
he got me to the Pro Bowl. He got us to the playoffs. I'm throwing the ball. If he's 1-on-1, I'm throwing this guy the ball. If there's 2 on him, I'm still probably going to throw this guy the ball. Those guys can control a football game, and that's what you're talking about. You're talking about a guy that when the game's on the line, we're calling a play to get it in his hands, even though they know it's probably going his way.
That's the key, Doug. Exactly. Like, this guy's going to get the ball, and you still can't stop him. So no, you're right. You hit it on the head with that one.
That's I was watching. I think it was an NFL game a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, the number 1 receiver wasn't getting the ball in his hands. And, you can roll the coverage that way, throw safety over top, do whatever to double or bracket. Move that guy around, man. That guy, That guy that can control a game, motion him, bring him across the formation, stack him off somebody.
Exactly. Yep.
Find ways, get him one-on-one, get him the ball.
Sounds like you want to be a coach.
I love the idea. I don't like it. I've seen the job and don't like the hours. These guys don't go home. They don't see their family. They don't sleep. Oh.
I think you'd rather be in the man cave there playing Leonard Skinner covers, right?
There you go. All day long. All day long. We had where were we? Auburn was playing in a national championship game way back, and my band was playing, and we came right out with Sweet Home Alabama for that. And they're like, no! All the Auburn fans hate it.
Oh, man. So you're still playing in the band, too. This is not a football-related question, but it kind of is. Where do you get such endless energy? Like, I'm a very energetic guy, right? A lot of energy. But then I hit a wall. And when I hit that wall, I hit it hard. You don't seem to like you got like a reserve tank that's endless. Where you get all this energy from, Doug?
I think it's just I never stopped being a kid.
That's
I still play adult league baseball. I surf.
I was telling you about this the other day.
Just about every morning I surf. The waves, by the way, yesterday were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, not so good up here in New York. By the way.
Not so good. We got a little strong offshore wind, but it was good. Like they were 5-6 foot, which
I'll go check the ones out in Miami when we're done with this podcast.
Oh yeah,
I'll let you know.
Miami. See, the Bahamas break up the open ocean down there, so you don't get the good waves coming into South Florida.
Damn it!
But I don't know. Maybe I'm afraid to get old. I don't know what it is.
Keep on keeping on, bro.
Yeah,
you're looking good.
Like I said, playing old man baseball and stuff. I still pitch. I throw. My arm feels great. The back gets tight. I got a bad left knee. All that. But it's the Advil leagues. It's the somebody's gonna pull a hammy or snap an Achilles. It's gonna happen.
Oh man.
We have fun. We really do have fun.
Some of the criticism that you hear from Oklahoma's quarterback Caleb Williams is that it's a small sample size. So he didn't play the complete season, came in pretty much at the halfway mark for the Sooners and Lincoln Riley. How would that factor in for you as a voter that he may have played half the season?
Yeah, good
Do you
question.
care about that?
Well, like last year's Heisman with a small season for some guys, it factors in. It's a major fact. You got to play week in and week out. Now, maybe if it's a week, maybe if it's 1 week where you're nicked up and you sat out and it didn't make much of a difference, but you've got to be on that field week in and week out and play pretty much every game in my mind. I even though the talent, then we should just award it on who's the most talented kid in college football before the season starts. That's I talk about national championship especially back in the day when it was the eye test and all that, and the days of Boise State upsetting Oklahoma. Right, they won the football game, and all my elite college football buddies are like, no, but they're better. Oklahoma's better. This team's better. No, who won the game? Right. Get out there. You find a way to do it. It's a team game. You do. That's why I'm not caught up with necessarily who's the best athlete out on the field. Right. But how do they get it done and find ways to win? And you got to be on the field on a regular basis.
Yeah. Doug, this has been a lot of fun talking to you, man. Really enjoyed it. We could probably go on all afternoon, but there are people yelling in our ears that it's about time to wrap it up. So, Doug,
tell them to go home. We'll keep talking.
All right, there you go. Exactly. We probably will, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Doug, listen, thanks for joining us. Go out and catch some of those. What did Mr. Spicoli say in the
all I need
Fast
is
Times at Ridgemont High?
Waves,
tasty waves and cool buds, right?
Cool bud.
There you go.
And I'm fine.
There you go. Doug Flutie, 1984 Heisman Trophy winner, with us here on Hello Heisman. Boy, we should have seen that coming. Some time with Doug Flutie is always entertaining, and there's just never enough time. A lot of fun, great guy with some great stories to tell. All right, before we step aside, couple of questions from out there from the social media team. And Des, why don't we start with this one? Who was the toughest opponent that you ever played against?
Wow, Jimmy, I tell you what, first of all, I love the questions from the audience. So please keep them coming. I enjoy this part of the podcast. I would say the toughest opponent, I'm going to give you an experience I had as a junior. We played Notre Dame, and it was in South Bend. And, the Fighting Irish, Jimmy, they were like a thorn in our side, right? They had Raghib Ismail, and they just had all these guys, and they would beat us. I'm like, man, here we're going up to Notre Dame. It's a night game in South Bend. We're going to finally, take care of the Fighting Irish. It was an incredible atmosphere. I mean, standing room only. It was the best atmosphere for a regular season game that I've ever participated in. Incredible. And I had 2 touchdowns that night. I mean, really. And we ended up losing that game. But I tell people it was probably one of the most exciting regular season college football games I ever played in. Even though we lost the game, they were such a tough opponent, and we went, toe-to-toe with them in their own backyard at night under the lights. It was an incredible atmosphere, but that was like probably one of the toughest games, and, it was one of my favorites, even though we caught an L that night. So people are normally surprised by that answer, but, that's the type of game that, it helps you build character, and it shows you what type of resolve you have, and it gets you ready for the next one, because the next year, we took care of their ass in Ann Arbor.
Well, now, that leads me right into the next question, which is, and this might be the answer, your favorite college football memory or moment. Now, there have got to be 2 very obvious choices here. That game against Ohio State or getting the Heisman. But is there another?
I tell you what, those are like the signature moments. Those are the iconic moments. The 4th and 1 against Notre Dame in Ann Arbor. Just everything that went into that play just made it so that much more compelling. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it gives it such great context. But if I wanted to go off the field, because those are just like, those are no-brainers on the field. The 4th and 1 against Notre Dame and the punt return against Ohio State, both games in Ann Arbor. Both games against, our rivals. But what I really, really enjoy, Jimmy, is when we shoot these Heisman commercials. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with some guys who are like guys who I grew up idolizing, admiring. Like, I'm doing a Heisman commercial with Tony Dorsett. Like, I'm on the set with Barry Sanders. And, guys like that. I'm here with Jackson. So, man, it was like mind-blowing that I'm doing these commercials with these icons who I admired growing up. And that's, to me, that's always been the best. You see them at the Heisman ceremony, but, that's kind of like regimented because I have like work duties and all that stuff. You get to see them. But when we're on the set shooting the Heisman House commercials, that's the absolute best. It's our little fraternity house, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to have to go with an off-the-field moment for me because I didn't play college football. I've covered an awful lot of college football for a long, long time. But I got a strange one. So all those years when I was hosting the halftime show for Notre Dame football on NBC, it used to be broadcast from Rockefeller Center before the NBC Sports Broadcast Center moved from Rockefeller Center up to Connecticut. Yep. It was, the studio we would use was actually on the 8th floor. And on late Saturday afternoons, we were doing Notre Dame football games while Saturday Night Live was in the studio right next door to us doing their dress rehearsals. So it's not one moment, but it's just a collection of moments where you would do the halftime show and then you'd walk out into the hall and there was maybe, Bruce Springsteen or Will Ferrell, or you never know who was going to be there. And it was just such an exciting experience. And look, I love college football. It's my absolute favorite sport. But this made it just a little bit better to come to work every Saturday, I'll tell you that.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. Well, that's it for this episode of Hello Heisman from the Varsity Podcast Network. This episode is produced in partnership with Learfield and Blue Duck Media. I'm Desmond Howard.
And I'm Jimmy Roberts. And don't forget, if you want to get in touch with us, join us on Varsity's Instagram page because we love hearing from you. We'll see you next week.